Hi again. Page 300, Christianity and the Social Crisis. Walter Rauschenbusch's chapter is The Church and the Social Movement. He's reached the supply and spirit of the ministry. Like priests, like people, the condition of the church depends on the character of the ministry, and the condition of the ministry depends on the social health of the people. The ministry is recruited from the sons of the middle class, from the families of farmers, small businessmen, and the better grade of artisans. Students for the ministry rarely come from the homes of the very rich or the very poor. The boys of the poor may have fine native ability and piety, but if they are early forced to work, their educational chances are slighter and their minds are likely to be blunted. The country and the smaller cities furnish a larger proportion of the supply than the large cities because they are the wholesome conditions of middle-class life. The wholesome conditions of middle-class life persist longer. The general shrinkage in the supply, which seems to be undeniable, is doubtless due to a combination of causes: theological unrest, the glamour of wealth in business life, the multiplied openings for intellectual work and social service, the deterrent conditions existing in the ministry. But one chief cause for the shrinkage in the ministry must be the shrinkage of the class from which it is drawn. A spring will dry up if the rock formation is disturbed or removed within which the water collects. When the best elements of the country and village churches are drained off to the city, when the home life in the cities is narrowed and withered, when many of the most intelligent men of the middle classes have no children, or very few of them, is not so far-reaching a social condition sure to affect the supply of young men drawn from these social classes. The inequality of wealth has already lowered the spirit of the ministry. The most selfish church of wealthy people can offer a better salary and greater social advantages than the most generous church of working people. To get a warm berth, a man must get into the right stratum of society. Smoothness and courtly grace may count for more than spirituality and earnestness. Prophetic vigor may even be a disqualifying virtue. It's hard to make a comparative judgment of so elusive a thing as the spirit of a profession, but it does seem that a spirit of anxiety, ambition, and self-advancement is gaining ground and sapping one of the noblest of all professions of its power and its happiness. When lawyers, doctors, teachers, journalists, and artists have been commercialized to their inner loss, is it likely that the ministry can escape? The chief reward of the ministry has always come to it in the affection and respect of the people. But our age is so drunk with the love of money that anything which does not pan out in cold cash has to take a back seat. Our newspapers constantly speak of college professors and ministers in a tone of patronizing condescension. The salaries of teachers are pitifully inadequate when compared with their value to the community. They turn boys and girls into nobler men and women. The successful writer of advertisements may turn a lie into dollars. Clearly he deserves the higher pay. There have been times when the community had a truer judgment of comparative values and gave its spiritual leaders veneration and love. Our commercial system has begotten a fierce, competitive thirst for wealth. It has concentrated all minds on money, and accordingly all callings which serve the intellectual and spiritual life have dropped in the relative importance and honor assigned to them. The ministry is one of them. It has lost its best perquisites. Most ministers are proletarians. They live from hand to mouth on their wages like other wage earners and have no share in the wealth-producing capital of the nation. They may not share in the class consciousness of the wage workers, but they do share in their sufferings. They too know the bitterness of hunting for a job and finding a long line of applicants ahead of them. Their tenure too has become insecure. What used to be a life position has become a rapid shifting. Committees naturally tend to use the same methods in hiring or dismissing a minister which are used in hiring or sacking any other employee. Ministers too find that old men are not wanted, and that when the buoyancy of their youth has been used up, they are put aside with no provision for their age. They too find that the trust can advance prices much more easily than the wage worker can advance his wage. Thus the minister is dragged down with his class even though he does not recognize that he belongs to that class. Ill health, changes of belief, painful experiences in the pastorate, or inability to secure a position often make it seem desirable to a minister to earn his living in some other way. He casts his eye wistfully toward other professions. If there were an economical organization of the working ability of the community and a brisk demand for men, he might find an opportunity. If the labor market is overstocked, especially with elderly men, he finds himself shut up to the ministry and resumes his work there, but now no longer with the old sense of free dedication, but with the consciousness of economic compulsion. If a man knows that he can leave, he may not want to leave. If he knows that he never can leave, he may yearn to leave and pull his oar like a galley slave. For the spirit of the ministry, it is desirable that the door of exit shall be wide open. The old idea of once a priest, always a priest, is a relic of sacerdotal religion, which ascribed an indelible character to the ordained man. Thus the independence and joy of the ministry is subtly affected by the condition of the labor market. There are probably few preachers who can say that they have never been influenced by the fear of endangering their income when they shaped or delivered their message to the people. They too are in bondage through fear. Next time, the church and poverty. Put in a link here to why do we soften Christ's sayings about wealth. It's an earlier section of Rauschenbusch's discussion from the 31st video, which is back in the first 70 or so pages of the book.